Hi, Facebook world. So in today's Deep Important Shit, I want to continue to talk about death and fear, and the fact that when we have unacknowledged fear, that can really drive us in ways that we would rather they didn't if we were conscious of them. So one of the first things that I ever learned when I was studying with the Toltec traditions is to write a book of death. And in this book, the first thing that we were told to write about was to basically take an inventory of all of our fears. And this is a really intense process, but it's a necessary process if you want to become more conscious of the things that you're afraid of. If we're not conscious of them, then they're going to control us. If we're conscious of them, they might still control us, but we have that little bit of space and window in which we can choose something different, or face into the fear and lean into it instead of back away. It gives us that choice point. So the book of death, as it was called, it starts with this inventory of all of your fears, and the idea, of course, is not to censor anything. It's very stream of consciousness, writing down everything that comes to your mind, whether it makes sense to you or not at first, and even if you're not sure how deep that fear may go. But to get as detailed as possible and to just keep writing. I'm afraid of dying, but then get more specific. I'm afraid of dying a violent death, and then get more specific. I'm afraid of dying from a murder or something along those lines. And it can include really silly things too. They don't have to be reasonable fears. They can be completely irrational, whatever that may be for you. And I don't want to place any judgments on anything, so I'm not gonna share some examples for that. But you get the idea. It's taking an inventory of everything you fear, and this is really the first step in starting to liberate yourself from the things that you're most afraid of. Now, I wanted to bring up a couple of things from my last talk. One of those things, okay, so my friend Maya, she had commented on what I had shared, and she said how, yeah, if we're not aware of our fears, we can really easily be manipulated. And so that is also a part of this. Our fears not only drive our behavior, but they allow other people to drive our behavior. And we are very easily manipulated when we're afraid of something and we want to avoid it. And if, of course, like I said, if that's unconscious, then there's just no window of opportunity other than grace for freedom from it. And if you think about, this is also a really good thing to put in your book of death. And of course, yes, there is a book of life, but that comes later. So in your book of life, in your book of death, you can also add, ways that you see people can be manipulated by fear. Start to look for these things, not maybe just in yourself, but maybe in the broader world, because sometimes it's easier to see how other people are led by fear than how we are. But it's like fear of aging has created the beauty market, or fear of rejection. That can all be tied in. Fear of going to hell, that has created religion, or vice versa. So look at how beliefs get intertwined with fear and get intertwined with conditioning and get intertwined with manipulation. So it's all connected. The other thing I wanted to bring up from last conversation, and that is that I really want people to be free. I want people to be liberated. And this includes myself. I want to be free too. And part of being able to be free is taking responsibility. And then there are, I'm just gonna say this even though I don't know it's gonna come out just right, okay? We could say that there are two kinds of people in the world. There are those that want an authority, someone to make their decisions for them, someone to tell them what to do, someone to guide and protect them, okay? They don't want to do it themselves. And then there are the people who want to be self-mastered. They want to make their own decisions wisely, make sense of the world wisely. And so we just need to kind of choose where we want to be. And the ones who are willing to accept responsibility for their lives, for the situations they find themselves in, for their own emotions, for all the things they feel maybe in the past have come from the outside, you know, I'm this victim of something coming at me. We have to circumvent that habit, that conditioning to blame the outside world and start taking responsibility for ourselves. We cannot have liberation if we don't take responsibility. If we can't respond, then we're not able to be free. So the choice is ours in any moment. Are we going to allow ourselves to seek answers from the outside? Or are we going to start to turn inward and take responsibility for our lives? And that includes taking responsibility for our fears, which is what the topic of today was all about. So if you happen to be one of the people who want to take responsibility, as hard as it is, and believe me, I mean, I have recently realized how deeply ingrained this resistance is inside of me to completely take responsibility. It is a big deal, you know, to completely take responsibility. It means you can't blame other people anymore. It means you can't make excuses anymore. And it's, you know, not always pleasant, but it is the only way to be free. So in my own estimation, it's worth it. So I'm just giving you this idea of the Book of Death. If it's an exercise you want to try, and I'm going to share other exercises that I've learned in the past in working with this concept of death and fear and bringing some of those things out to the surface over, you know, however many of these I might do. And I welcome you to, you know, make comments in the feed about your own experiences with this, or reach out to me if you want to talk privately. I'm happy to do that as well. Let's start looking at these things. Let's start examining them and bringing them up, you know, from the darkness into the light, and give ourselves a shot at being sovereign about, and give ourselves a shot at growing up, you know, and being free. Okay, that's all for now. I'll talk to you again soon.